So, Chris Weitz and Demian Bechir, thank you for bringing a better life to the Wrap screening series.
Thank you very much.
Chris, given the rhetoric we're hearing these days in the presidential campaign and all, has this film become more political than you set out to make?
Much more. I mean, when we were first putting out the film, really our emphasis was on the universality of the story, and we knew that there was the immigration issue was a big one. Okay, but now that the Republican candidates are throwing around this word illegals, which I think will eventually become kind of the N-word of our time, I think it's more and more important that people put out counter images to the kind of vilification that is being applied to people who are working very hard here in this country and who are really propping up our economy and not sapping from our economy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's actually, it becomes more topical every time one of the Republican candidates uses undocumented immigrants as a punching bag.
Mm-hmm. All right. The film is now showing, in the other room to basically a Los Angeles audience, probably a lot of whom grew up here. But I would guess that they're looking at a Los Angeles that a lot of them don't really recognize. I mean, Demian, you've lived here and worked as an actor. I mean, how familiar were you with that side of?
That's one thing. That's one of the things that shocked me from the beginning whenever we started shooting the film, because I've been in Angelino for many years, and I've been around, and I've been in East LA, everywhere. But I've never seen those locations. We had some really wonderful places to shoot our film, and that's one thing that people love about this film, that the city becomes another character, a crucial character, and it's beautiful to see how everything changes in the same territory in just a few miles difference between one place to another, from Malibu to Ramona Gardens. That's one thing that shocks everyone, and it's a lot like the biggest cities in the world, like Mexico City, or you find that in La Paz, in Bogota, in places like that, and that's really wonderful.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Chris, what were you looking for when you were casting your leading man here?
Well, I mean, the leading man kind of cast himself. I saw Demian in Che and Steven Soderbergh's movie. I was able to see a pretty early cut of that before it came out, and I thought, I'd really like to work with this guy someday. So when I got the script for what was then called The Gardener, I thought of Demian immediately. And even though I was making New Moon, I called him in on an audition for the head of the Volturi, the Italian vampire clan. And I think it was a bit confusing for Demian, because his agents had told him he wants you to play a gardener eventually, but you're going to be a vampire. This is a vampire, and I think there's some confusion as to whether he was playing a vampire or gardener or not. But really, it was me trying to get just the first feel of working with somebody. To me, it was always it was an easy decision, and other casting choices were going to be hard, but this one was a no-brainer. And I think that the way that people respond to the film is really conditioned by the way that they're responding to Demian's performance. It is the film in many ways, and so I think I was right in that one.
So, are you sorry you didn't get to be in a Twilight movie?
I was hoping to get the part. I wanted to be a vampire.
I mean,
but I knew about Chris, and that's exactly why I went to that audition. It was not really in my plans to become a vampire, but my agents told me about Chris directing, and knowing what he did in the past, I thought he was one of those rare gems, eclectic directors that can jump from one genre to another with such ease and like a fish in the water, you know. And for me, when he started talking about the gardener, I thought, wow, well, that's a whole different story from everything he's done before. And I just, by him telling me that part of the story, because he didn't have a script at that time, I fell in love with it instantly. And then a year later, I had the chance to read it. And when I got in touch with the first my first reading, I found a real story. I thought it was a real thing, being Mexican and Angelino and being an immigrant myself, and knowing all my paisanos and talking to them all the time, every day, valet parkings and gardeners, nannies and cooks and waiters and busboys. I thought, ooh, this one is real, and this story has been told in many ways before, especially from Mexico. But this is the first time I saw it like the real thing, with no tricks or gimmicks or any kind.
Mm-hmm. All right. You look probably 10 years younger here than you look on screen in this movie.
I just came back from surgery.
I mean, did you ever question, like, okay, I'm going to gain weight and then learn to climb palm trees?
That's, you know, actors are crazy. It's really well known that we go for everything. And, but the things that interest me the most about a character is the fact that you can become someone else, and you can stretch your own virtues, if you have any, in many different ways. And I'm always looking for characters that can be a whole different story from whatever I played before. And we wanted to give this guy a specific kind of look, and that meant those, you know, that pants out, that belly that we put on the character, about 20 pounds more than I usually weigh. And then Chris asked me one day that, how do you feel about that scene about climbing up the tree? And I told him, yeah, man, please let me do it. And then he said, well, we have to check out first with the insurance company, all that, if we can go up or not. And then I remember the first day we had our first going up session. Real gardening went up first. And the first thing that we noticed was that he was crossing himself, you know, because it is really difficult to do that, and there's a real risk that you can lose your life every time you go up. And then the stunt coordinator did it, my stunt man. And then when I was ready to go up, I looked around. I looked to my right, and Chris Weitz was already climbing up. He was getting all the gear in place and going up. And I thought that was magnificent. You know, not too many directors are willing to take the same risk they're asking their actors to do.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, Chris, I understand you haven't left this subject behind. I mean, you're making other short films or something on the issues that were raised by this film?
Yeah, well, the movie got a lot of attention in D.C. Our best performing theater was in Bethesda, Maryland, which is where a lot of cabinet members live, a lot of congressional staffers, people who work at think tanks. And so the Center for American Progress got in touch with me to do some short pieces about Alabama HB 56, which is the most restrictive immigration state law in the country right now. It's doing terrible damage not only to the lives of immigrants in that state, but to the state of Alabama, not only its reputation, but actually its business. And so that's been my next thing. And in fact, I just got back from Arizona yesterday, where I met some kids who are dreamers. They're trying to get the DREAM Act passed because they were brought here when they were kids through no fault of their own, and they're Americans, and they grew up and studied here, and they want to keep on studying here. They want to be Americans. So it's kind of, with other films you can sort of walk away after a certain point. But I think what I didn't realize is once you make a political film, especially with an issue as as unhappy and unquiet and difficult as this one, it's very hard to walk away from it. Because, you know, this movie is talking the talk, but then I have to kind of walk the walk afterwards.
Right. Demian, has it stuck with you too?
What do you mean?
I mean, has it made you more involved in these issues, or, you know?
I've always been aware of the whatever problems that affect all the undocumented people that work here, because everything is correlated to Mexico and whatever happens there too. And I became an American citizen exactly because I wanted to be part of that change with my vote. Try to balance the whole thing. I don't believe I can do it alone, but one thinks that you can, you know, do your part in many ways. And then when you have the blessing of belonging to a project like the Better Life and being part of it, and then portraying this character, which is me giving voice to all these Carlos Galindos, there are thousands of them, millions of them everywhere. For me, it's not only a joy, but a great responsibility, and it's an honor. And the greatest part of all this is that I have a lot of Anglo friends that have told me that this film not only touched their hearts, but it changed their minds in many ways. And if we can take this film to as many people as we can and create a change, then, you know, a real miracle will happen, because besides touching hearts, art should be able to do that too.
Mm-hmm. Right. To end on a lighter note, Chris, I do have a bone to pick with you, which was when we spoke last was at the party at the Four Seasons for Demian and for the film, and you left to go get a bottle of what you said was the best tequila ever, and you said, "Wait here, I'll be back," and you never came back.
It's because it was so good. Well, I'll have to get you a bottle of Alacran. But I think even better is Siete Leguas. You know, so I was wrong, and
He knows.
I apologize.
Okay.
Lo siento mucho.
Well, thank you both for bringing your film to us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.